Hello there. Welcome to a new episode of the Fortress of Philitude. In today's episode, I'm sure you've seen the title of the video and you've seen the little thumbnail for the video, so you realize I have made a proxy for the Void Dragon Necron model using a 3D printed figure and some foam core for the base and some other materials. Like anyone else, when they first came out with the Void Dragon model, I thought, man, that's really cool. That's a really nice sculpt. It's a different look for the Necrons, but it was also pricey. And being a big figure, you know, if you're playing Warhammer, it's going to take up a lot of points. It's going to eat up a lot of your resources for fielding an army. But knowing it wasn't something I would probably ever buy, I still couldn't stop thinking about it. One day while I was going through Thingiverse looking at STL files, I came across a file someone had created for their own proxy. It was a female Void Dragon. It looked very much like the official one, had the same kind of head, had the articulated tail, had the same kind of wings with the energy arcing off of them. But try as I might, I could not get that whole thing to print. I tried 3 or 4 times and it just kept failing. I don't know if maybe something needed to be adjusted on the supports or my settings with my printer. I don't know. I gave up on it though. I did manage to get the tail and the wings, which I thought, well, maybe I can make use of these with a proxy. You know, I'll find another figure that somehow I'll just modify and make my own version. So I got kind of hung up on the idea of a female Void Dragon. So I started looking at angel models on my mini factory, Thingiverse, pretty much anywhere else online where I could find STL files for sale. I finally found a figure on my mini factory that I liked. It really kind of jumped out at me. She had a weird shaped head. You know, she looked like she was a little bit mechanical, like an android or a robot. She had the articulated tail, and in fact, she had 2 of them. So I thought that's the model I want to use. She also had a big staff, you know, that would kind of substitute as the spear that the normal Void Dragon model has. So I decided to go with that. I did discover pretty early on, thanks to the comments on the page where I downloaded the file, that it's actually a model of a figure, of a character from Magic the Gathering, the card game, which I've never played. I know, there goes some of my nerd cred, right? I never got into Magic the Gathering, haven't really followed it. I've seen artwork. So I did a little bit of research, and it is a character that's used in Magic the Gathering. I don't know how popular it is. I don't really know anything about the character, but I like the model, so I went with it anyways. So hopefully this figure doesn't turn any of you off because you see it and you think, oh, it's Magic the Gathering character. That just totally ruins the illusion. Hopefully you look at it like I do and you think, man, that's a pretty cool looking model. So, yeah. You probably can't see it very well because of all the stuff in the background. But I will do a close-up that I'll show, that I'll superimpose on the video here. But yeah, there she is. I'm very happy with the way I'm very happy with the way the base turned out. I was really concerned about the floating crystals and the energy and how I was going to model all of that and how I was going to pull it off. And I'll show you how I did it here in just a second. But I'm pretty proud with what I came up with and how it turned out. But let's go to the workbench and I'll show you some video and some clips of the process of assembling this beauty. And then at the end of the video, we'll just do a close-up of her and do the money shot of the figure in its final finished glory. So here you can see the pieces I started with from the failed 3D print that I had found on Thingiverse. There's the tail. There's this middle section that the tail attached to. It was kind of like a backpack, I guess. And then the wings. And it turns out the wings are the only part from that I'm going to use. They worked out really well. And there's the figure after I had printed her out and started gluing her together. You know, all the different pieces, the different arms and legs and head were all separate, so they all had to be glued together. And yeah, pretty happy with that figure. It's got a really alien look to it. A piece of foam left over from a previous build to use as a base. And then her tail sections, 2 different tails. I actually mounted them on the figure differently than they were meant to be, so that they come out a different way. And then, of course, her staff. Went ahead and glued her to a temporary base so I could paint her. That's after I've got everything glued together, the tails and the wings. The staff I waited till the very end because I thought it'd be a little easier to paint her and paint it once, as it was separated, rather than having everything glued together. And then all my foam pieces. I had these old pieces, cut like crystals. I cut them down a little further and cut chunks off a couple of them. And these cubes. Of course, you see my straightened paper clips there in the background too. And here's the base and the crystals after I've glued them down and put first a coat of black Mod Podge on, and then I actually did a second coat with some purple mixed in instead of black. You can also see where I kind of carved runes into the foam using a ballpoint pen. Unfortunately, I thought I had video of some of that carving, but apparently I was not recording. Same thing when I was doing the Mod Podge, though. Not like you really need to see a video of me Mod Podging some foam. Here's the figure. After I've done a lot of the painting, I did the same thing. I thought I was recording some of my paint steps, and turns out I was not recording. I used a color shifting paint on the tail and part of the wings. I used just a base blue on the body. I did some edge highlighting with silver. I used a color shift paint over the blue as well. It gives it a very metallic look. It would have a very different look if I had just left her a gloss black and then done the color shift. It would have had a different, just a different look to it overall. But I like just sticking with the blue and giving it that metallic color. Here I am just painting a regular purple over top of everything that's been Mod Podged on the base. Just to kind of tie it all together and blend that black and the purple together, and to kind of give some highlight to the runes by kind of doing that overbrush there. The original purple shows through. Did the same thing with all the other crystals. These are the 2 chunks that I'm going to mount on her feet that are then going to be suspended above the rest of the base, kind of hovering above everything. Just had to go through and sort of do that good coat of purple on everything. Some of these little cubes. Carved some little runes in those too. You'll see those in the final product, the final build. I went through and edge highlighted. Actually, edge highlighted a couple of times with a couple of different colors. Just going with a lighter color to start with, and then a brighter, almost pink color at the end to sort of match with the energy, the little lightning bolts coming from her hands and holding the other crystals aloft and arcing over her wings. I was a little concerned about the weight of the model. I was kind of afraid that the base would be too light and that it would tip over. But since she's cast out of resin, or I should say printed from resin, she's incredibly lightweight. And here's the paper clips as I twisted them around with the pliers to get my little energy arcs. And just kind of a test, running it through some of the cubes. Real happy with the way that turned out. I was kind of stressed over how I was going to model that. And at first I thought about paper clips. I thought maybe they'll be too flimsy. But actually they were perfect. They've got just the right strength, and with those pliers I can bend them in all different directions. Trying to be careful not to do any 90-degree bends, and kind of twist things in different directions here and there, but kind of keep it all sort of curved and almost organic in the way it's curling around. And yeah, when you compare the paperclip to the 3D printed parts on the wings, it's pretty much the same width. And I tried to make sure that I bent it to kind of model it to look the same. Now there she is, sort of put together in sort of a test. Everything's not exactly glued together there, but I was just kind of goofing around and figuring out where I was going to put everything. And at this point I had glued her feet to the crystals just to make sure I could suspend her. You can see they're lightweight, easy to move, not going to tip over. You know, I thought I might have to carve into the bottom of that thing and put some weights in there, but thankfully I did not. And there I am just painting the energy arcs. So I've got most of those glued into place there. And you notice I did take her off the base. It ended up being a lot easier painting all this without her glued on there. It was just too much to work around with her in place already. And there it is after they're all painted. You can see some of the runes on the floating crystals. You know, my final paint job on her, I did some silver in the joints. Got some water slide decals on there with some Necron runes. I apologize for the shaky cam there. That's all handheld camera, so it's not real smooth. And then there's the final model. Like I said, some of you may recognize that as a Magic the Gathering figure character, but I'm not too concerned about that. I will put links to the model and the original Thingiverse model that I tried to print in the notes below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe. Hit the like button. If you hate this for some reason, feel free to hit the dislike button. I don't care, it's still a metric. Leave a comment. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, share the video. Feel free to let me know what you think. I've seen a lot of people make proxies of this figure using other Warhammer figures, even some of the Age of Sigmar fantasy-themed figures, just to give something weird-looking to use as a proxy for the Void Dragon or for some other type of Catan shard. If you play Warhammer, you know what that is. If not, you can Google it and do research if you want to. And here in a second I'll do some close-ups just to go over some of the finer detail, just so you can see it a little closer. Maybe see some of the water slide decals, which are kind of subtle. Here we go. Once again, I apologize for the shaky cam. This is by hand, so this may not be smooth. Hopefully this won't give anyone motion sickness. I know if you're not a 3D printer, you may say, well, how am I going to do this without a 3D printer? I mean, this doesn't do me any good. But you can actually find this figure on Etsy, sold by a number of different sellers. I think I saw this figure printed for as low as $16. And the highest I saw was $24. So even if you don't have a 3D printer, it's easy to get this figure, and you could make something like this yourself without having to do any 3D printing on your own. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed this figure. Like I said, leave me a comment, leave me a like. Feel free to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and we'll see you next time on the Fortress of Filitude.